Fresh off the launch of the Android-based video game console Ouya, it appears that Google may be next to leap into the business. According to the Wall Street Journal, Google is developing a home video game console which will run Android. Citing people familiar with the matter, the report says that Google is working on the console to get the jump on Apple in case they develop similar devices. Google declined to comment when reviewers posed this question to the company, but earlier this week, the Kickstarter project Ouya launched online, and it has been a massive hit, so it would make sense if Google was wanting to leap into the business. Nearly 200 independently developed games, priced as low as $2 to $3, debuted on Ouya, which ships with a $99 price tag. Now, historically, the home console business has long remained the domain of three companies: Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony. Nintendo launched the Wii U last November, but has failed to catch on as quickly as its predecessor, the Wii. Meanwhile, Microsoft and Sony will launch the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 respectively later this year. Would you be interested to get a Google video game console, or do you think it would just be a mistake for yet another company to leap into the lucrative video gaming business? Let me know what your opinions about Google's console are in the comments below. If you're excited to see, more Android game consoles coming in, because Ouya has not been received too well. We've got more game consoles coming in with Game Pop from BlueStacks and at least one or two other Android competitors. But if Google was to release its own gaming console, it would likely be of higher quality, and it would actually probably fall into the Nexus Q lineup. Now, Google last year released the Nexus Q, which was, to be honest, kind of a flop. It was kind of a streaming device that hooked up to your TV, and, no one really liked it that much. But if Google were to make the Nexus Q second generation a video gaming console as well, I could see some people wanting to get on board with that whole idea with, go Google with their TV and their games and, streaming and videos and, television, all that. I could see people wanting to get on board with the whole Android system. Now, maybe you're not one of those people, but it's an interesting concept to consider nonetheless. Google's already got a monopoly almost on internet. It's got a monopoly on, Nexus devices. It's acquired a lot of other companies, including Motorola, which could help it design this next console, hypothetically. We could, Google to release this console, it would make a fair bit of sense, and it would be an interesting competitor to the likes of, the Xbox One and PS4. Now, I'm personally interested in the idea that Google would release, a new console, and if Google did that, we could see a number of other companies following suit. As I said, Google is trying to get the jump on Apple, according to this rumor, which would imply that Apple is a video game console coming in as well. I mean, Apple's already got the Apple TV, which kind of allows people to play some iOS games on their television, but, that's not quite as good as a dedicated gaming console, which, Google could do. They could even make it so that if you have a Nexus device or even an Android smartphone, you could even use that as like an extra controller, like what we've been seeing with some of the Chrome games, like, the Cube Slam game that just released recently, that's kind of like Pong, and we saw basically a rolling type game where you were trying to roll balls and get various points. We saw a game where you were navigating different sort of stages. Basically, you're rolling a ball through different web pages. We saw Chrome Super Sync Sports, which, had you trying to race against competitors from around the globe. Google has been wanting to get into the gaming business, and this would probably be a really good way to do it. But I've talked on long enough. Let me know what you think of, Google releasing a game console in the comments below, and I will see you next time for another video. Thanks for watching.